Good day, folks, and welcome to On Blast with MG. Today we're going to show you how to make bread using your starter that you just made. So if you watched my previous video, we showed you how to make a starter, but to make a starter, it's pretty easy. You add 1 tablespoon of flour to a jar along with a little bit of water and stir it to the consistency of basically pancake batter. You feed that 1 tablespoon and some water every day for 7 days, and you got your starter. Pretty simple. So now we're gonna I'm gonna show you guys how to make some bread, sourdough bread using your starter you just made, with only 3 very simple ingredients. This is easy. I make about 1 loaf per week. One loaf lasts me about a week, and that's a nice thing, you know. No preservatives, no nothing. This bread is still good a week later. I just put it in the little toaster right there, toast it up, and then it's really good. So let's get going. It's really simple. You got your starter here. I got some flour. I got a little measuring cup. I got some salt and one of my secret ingredients, caraway seeds. If you like them, I think that gives the bread a nice taste. So try them. They're really good. If you don't feel them, then don't worry about it. All right, so let's get going. I'll show you guys how to do this. Now, making this sourdough bread is a little bit of a process, only in the way that it just takes most of the day to do it. So I usually like to start in the morning, and I'll bake by evening. So let's go ahead and do it. It's not hard at all, but it is a bit of a process. So let me just walk you through the process. First things first, you want to grab 2 cups of flour. So I usually use the Trader Joe's bread flour, which is pretty good. It's worked pretty well for me. So 1 cup, and then 1 more cup. So you need to use, basically the recipe calls for 2 cups of flour, just like that. Followed by about 1 tablespoon of salt and another tablespoon of the caraway seeds, to your taste though. I use about 1 tablespoon of salt, and usually I use kosher salt. And the caraway seeds, so those get placed right in the middle there. Okay. Next, we need to add the starter now. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to add all of the starter except for about 1 tablespoon, which you're going to leave in there. And start feeding it again for the next 7 days until you need to make your next loaf. So you add all of the starter except for about 1 tablespoon, and you're going to leave that in there, the tablespoon of starter, and you're going to feed it again with 1 tablespoon of flour, and go on just like you did before for the next 7 days. So let's go ahead and add the starter. So all of it minus the 1 tablespoon you're going to leave in there to keep going. So let's go ahead and do that. Now what I like to do, and this is your preference only, after I put my starter right on top of the flour, the salt, and the caraway seeds, I like to transfer the leftover tablespoon from the old jar. I like to transfer it into a new jar and just put it right in there, feed it, and then place it again away. So usually I keep mine on a shelf right here in the kitchen where it's nice and warm. And then you can wash the old jar. Now your starter should basically smell like fermenting beer. It should smell kind of like beer. If you just smell the top of a beer, that's kind of how it should smell. Then you know it's kind of right. But so what we did is we took the starter from our jar and we put it inside our colander here, where we had the flour, 2 cups of flour, tablespoon of salt, and a tablespoon of caraway seeds, and then all of the starter minus a tablespoon, which we kept into the new jar. And now we just need to add the final ingredient and then show you guys how to do it. Okay, so the final ingredient here is 1 cup of water. I got my Michael Jackson glove just on one hand, and I'll show you guys why. So we'll take our 1 cup of water, room temperature water, and pour it over our ingredients here. And the reason for the Michael Jackson glove is because now we're going to stir this just gently with a couple of fingers. So just stir all the ingredients. We're going to stir all the ingredients nicely until they become basically kind of like a stringy little mess here. So I'm going to hold this myself. Okay, so after stirring it basically for just a few seconds with your gloved hand, this is the pre-ferment. It's called the pre-ferment. It looks kind of like stringy. It's pretty mixed up. Sometimes it's also called levain. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but basically it looks like that. So you just mix it with your glove, all the ingredients, 2 fingers, you know, for just a minute or so until it's nicely mixed up and it kind of looks like a little stringy mess. And then you're going to cover it and just leave it here for about an hour to pre-ferment. So let's go ahead and cover it, and we'll come back to when it is ready to be kneaded. Usually about an hour's time. I cover it with a kitchen towel that I clip into the bowl just like that, and I'm going to leave it for about an hour, literally untouched. You can leave it for more if you like, and then we'll come back to it in about an hour and we're going to start kneading. Alright, so let's do that. We'll see you in a bit. Alright, so it's been about an hour letting the pre-levain kind of ferment. So it just looks like this basically. You can leave it for more than an hour if you like. I usually go about an hour depending on how busy I am. So what I'd like to do is just take a little bit of flour, just basically like a little tablespoon, and kind of put it around and on top of the pre-fermentation here, and then start basically kneading it. So just go over onto itself, over onto itself, over and onto itself. Basically we're going to do this until it's for about 5 good minutes probably, until it's really nice and kneaded into a nice little ball. You could add a little bit more flour if it gets a little too sticky. Basically just grab a little, maybe half a tablespoon or something, and just put it around the bowl, because you're going to basically be rolling it around the bowl just to prevent it from really sticking. Adds a little bit more. So just basically just over it and over and over like this, okay? So for about 5 minutes. So after about 5 minutes of kneading, your little dough ball should look like this. It's nice, it's not sticky. So we're just gonna basically leave it now for to start rising. So just gonna leave it in your bowl. You're gonna cover it. You're gonna cover it up with your cloth. In my case, I have this little clip here that I could use it to basically nothing gets in there. I'm gonna leave it on my kitchen counter. Now go about your day, do what you need to do. You're just gonna need to come back probably about every hour or so, and we're gonna stretch it. I'm gonna show you guys how to do that, but more or less, aside from the stretching part, you're basically done until the baking time. So I'll show you what I do in about a couple of hours. I'm gonna stretch it, and that's gonna help to make the bread nice and gluten. It's gonna make it really good. So I'll be back in about 2 hours and we'll go from there. Alright, so basically we got this right here. So this has been raising now for about 2 hours. So like I said, you need to come every couple of hours, starting at about 8 a.m. I started this at about 8 a.m. in the morning when I first started making it. Now it's about 10:58, so about 11 o'clock. So I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna do the first stretch. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of flour on the sides here, just a little bit. And then I'm gonna grab the, I like to wear gloves because it makes it a little easier. I like to grab the dough, and then I'll stretch it like this once, then stretch it again twice, maybe a third time, and fold it on itself, and then put it back in the bowl, and then just leave it alone. Okay, so another couple of hours you're going to cover it up again, and then another couple of hours you're going to come and do another one of those stretchings, all the way up until we're going to bake it later on this evening, and we'll come back for that. Okay. Alright, so it's been another couple of hours. This is what it looks like now. It's it's rising, but it's not rising, you know, overly. It's not doubling in size like you hear on some of the other videos, but it is rising. It is increasing in size. So we're gonna stretch it again. So grab a little bit of flour. So it's about 2 hours later. Basically, we're gonna grab it out of the little bowl, and we're gonna stretch it again. 1, 2, 3, and then we're gonna put it right back in the bowl. And then we're gonna let it rise again for another couple hours, and we're gonna do another stretch, and then we'll stick it in the oven. Okay, so we're ready to put the bread in. As you can see, the dough has kind of risen some more now. But what I like to do, and this is not necessary, but at the end, I will stretch it one more time. But before you do that, you want to prepare your pan. So let's come on over here. Let's close that up. So we're gonna use some cornmeal, and we're going to put some of it on the bottom of the pan. This is so that the bread doesn't stick to the bottom of your pan. So I just, you know, maybe grab like a teaspoon and spread it around at the bottom. I use a Le Creuset oven, a Dutch oven. You should use something similar. It doesn't have to be Le Creuset, it could just be a Dutch oven. But the point is, it needs to have a top. And we'll see why. So let's go ahead and take the bread here, the dough. It's really nice and ready to go. I'm gonna do one final stretch, just how I like it. Then we're gonna go ahead and take that and put it right in the middle of your pan. It's ready to go. Let me show you that. Just like that, right on top of the cornmeal. And then you're gonna preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and you're gonna put the top on your Dutch oven. You're gonna set a timer for 20 minutes. 20 minutes exactly, and then you're gonna put this in, top and all, into the oven on the center rack in the middle. There we go. We got to start a timer for 20 minutes, and then with the top on, and we'll come back and see how it looks after 20 minutes, and we'll finish it off without the top. We'll go over that in a sec. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes now, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull the Le Creuset out of the oven. There we go. Keep it on at 400 degrees. I'm going to take the top off, and voila, there is our bread. So it's risen a little bit more. So now what you want to do is you want to take the top off, obviously, and you want to put it back in the oven for what is, to me, about another 27 minutes. So I'll set it for 27 minutes and start it. My oven seems to run a little bit hot, but the more you leave it in, I go 27 minutes. If you want the crust a little bit darker and the bottom of the crust a little bit darker as well, then you could go a little bit longer, like 30 minutes, 33. But the way I like it is at 27 minutes. So we'll come back in 27 minutes and show you guys what the finished product looks like. Thank you. All right, so it's been 27 minutes, so let's take it out and see what we got. Put this out of the way. All right, there we go. Let's turn our stove off, and voila. We have our loaf of sourdough bread just fresh out of the oven. So what I do now is I want to take it out of here. Because of, let's come on over closer. Because we used some of the cornmeal, it should be fairly easy to take out of there, but sometimes you could let it cool down a little bit too. But here we go. So we'll take it out, and I want to just have it resting right here on cutting board. There you go. And then just keep fitting your starter, and then you have another loaf in 7 days. All right, thanks for watching. Subscribe.